Hey guys, welcome to FanCast. It is a live stream, yes it is, and we are going over everything finals football from week 1. It's your boy Joe back from the States. I hope you haven't missed me too much. My accent is still the same as ever. Don't you worry about that. I'm not going to let those Yanks transform me into something I'm not meant to be. Jez, how's it going?
Mate, you're only gone for 2 weeks. If your accent changed in that time, are you even Australian? Like, what's going on?
That's true. That's fair. But look, I got to have something to rest my hat on. And I'm not wearing a hat right now. But look, I got to feel good about myself in some way, shape or form, especially because our boys aren't in finals. Mm-hmm. Once again, we're not in finals. But hey, we can't lose a final if we're not playing in them. So look, it's always glass half full on this side of the table.
I guess so. I mean, like, you guys get to start preseason a week early, and then you get to, go on holidays a couple of weeks early. You don't miss out on going away and watching the final series because you weren't in the final series. So, I mean, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah, can't complain. But we can. That just means that we can watch each of these games.
Unbiased.
Free of any. Yes, unbiased. Free of any sort of allegiances here. Come on, Melbourne. How could you lose last night? Bloody hell, I wanted to see Collingwood lose. Obviously, wearing my Essendon bias there on my sleeve there. But, my God, we had a really fascinating game last night. Collingwood came out on fire. Melbourne reeled them in. Just couldn't get the job done. Slurpees afterwards. Yep. It was all one-way traffic, unfortunately, in terms of the celebrations there for Collingwood getting the job done. A lot of their damage was done early in the game, and look, they certainly left a few points out there. If they had kicked straight themselves in the first quarter, it could have even made an even much more difficult task for Melbourne. But look, bad kicking is bad football, and look, I wouldn't be too despondent though if I was a Melbourne supporter, because there's definitely upside still to come. You're not going to kick that badly every single week and have Bailey Fritsch almost miss his foot with that shot. Like, that was unbelievable. When I saw that, I'm like, there's no way they're going to win this game.
I think Melbourne's the team that, if you look at the top 8, is the one that will take the week off. Well, not take the week off, but they'll go through the week and they'll actually work out exactly what they need to do. They'll make the personnel changes if they need to, maybe bring in Espargo or whoever instead of Fritsch in that forward line, and hit that second round chance game. And they'll be like, man, I don't want to verse them. Because if you're a Carlton or you're someone else, it's going to be fireworks.
Oh, would be Sydney.
Yeah.
Someone else would be Sydney.
That's going to be fireworks.
Oh, look, Melbourne they certainly worked their way into the game, and we know that once it's wet, for a team that has got such great midfielders.
Max Gawn was falling over.
I know.
He looked like he's playing Oz kick. All the kids the ball goes past and all the kids fall over. That was Max Gawn for the first
Little
half.
Bambi couldn't stay on his feet. But by the end of the game, he was like shouldering everything, all of Melbourne's hopes and dreams. He just took over the game. He gave Cox and Darcy Cameron an absolute bath. Like, he killed them. He slaughtered them. They had to sub out Darcy Cameron. They're like, look, you're doing absolutely nothing for us. Just go on the bench. We'll sub in Ginnivan. So by the end of the game, he did everything he could. And then you look at in the crowds, and you've got Brodie Grundy sitting up there. That was his team, moved to this team, and he's not playing for either of them. You reckon he's already gone to Port?
I think there's definitely some things worked out there. Someone's exchanging some draft picks and things like that to get him across. But he would have been fantastic as Melbourne sub. Yes, they brought in a smaller player to cover the position, and with Brayshaw out, it was a good fit. But I think playing both of them to at least start would have done something. JVR's kicked. I mean, you're Brodie Grundy. You're an established ruckman. He's been All-Australian, right, at some point?
Yes.
A 19-year-old key forward is keeping you out of the game. Like, at that point, go somewhere else that actually needs you and that will play you every week, because you're not getting a game in that Melbourne team and you're one loss away from your season being over, and then you are going somewhere else.
Look, he won't be keeping him out of the side this week, I don't think, because JVR, I reckon he should absolutely be facing some MRO scrutiny here in terms of he elected to bump, the ball was past him, he elected to bump, collected McStay high, and I think he's going to cop a week for that at least. So that opens up a spot there for Mr. Brodie Grundy to perhaps come in and play what is a really crucial game. If Carlton get the win this week, as I think both of us sort of expect Is that right? Do you accept?
If Carlton get... I want Sydney to win, man.
I know you do, but...
I want Sydney. I think they'll win, but I'm just like, come on, Sydney. Do something this season. You made it in. Adelaide wants their hopes and dreams on you. At least kind of knock out Carlton. That's all I'm asking for.
Man, the Swans should not be there. You guys had that interchange infringement early in the year. You gifted them that
and then
win.
The AFL gave them the Adelaide one too, just to make sure they got... It's Buddy's final year. He's obviously not playing, but I reckon injury sub come the grand final. But Buddy puts on the boots for the last time.
Oh, no.
You're not retired until the season's over, so it could happen.
I can't even imagine. If that was to be the case, then this whole world is just a simulation.
That's when you make a movie about Buddy Franklin at that point.
I feel like if that was the case, we'd already be in the movie and someone up above is scripting something ridiculous. But something that hasn't been scripted and there's a lot of uncertainty left in the air is the aftermath of what is going to happen to one Braden Maynard.
Yeah.
Because that probably was... the highlight, lowlight focus of the night last night. That's a controversial one.
I mean, it's going to be talked about every day on the radio, on the TV for the next week until kind of the announcement gets made. And then after that as well, should it happen? And then next week's game when Melbourne's playing and Brayshaw's not, it's going to be talked about again.
Oh, yeah.
It was a footy act, yes. He did try and smother... I'm going to say, 70-30 pretty much. But turning the body when you go into the jump, it's like those times when you see a player and they're on one foot and they get tackled. You're responsible for the act that you do against the opposition player, regardless of the result, right? If Brayshaw was fine, then okay. They would have said, hey, that was pretty dangerous. This is what's happening. But because of the effect, the concussion happened, I think if you go out there, regardless of if you meant to or not, if you bump an opposition player, you're going to get suspended because they get concussed and they can't play the week after.
Yeah, look, I'm seeing a lot of people out there saying, he's already mid-air, he's already committed. What can he possibly do? He can't just simply disappear or do something. But I'm like, yeah, but he didn't have to brace himself that way.
And he obviously did. He jumped up. He was like this. He jumped up. Brayshaw's kicked the ball. He turns his shoulder mid-air and says, hey, you're going to take the brunt of my body weight bumping into you.
Yeah, look, I can't say I've been in a similar situation where I'm above someone about to slam them on and squash them. All right, I'm not gonna say I've been in that sort of situation. But if someone is like a child, for example, is walking behind me and they're really close, and I'm like, I stick my hands out to sort of make sure that there's a bit of separation between us.
Yeah,
I'm not looking to brace myself. When you're the one who's about to receive a falling player on your head, you're not the one you're not the one falling on them in danger. The one in danger is the one who's about to have the full force of a grown man land on them. They're the ones in danger. I'm not the one who has to brace myself and get him down. No. You could have spread himself out like that. Mid-air, he's already jumped, he's already spreading. Just simply maybe go out wide.
Land at him like this.
Or push your foot.
The way you're doing it. Yeah,
or put your hands out in front. You're already hands up like, just put your hands out in front. Where is this feeling of, I'm about to land on this guy, I could seriously hurt him. He just went, I'm going to put my hand up and I'm going to, like that was the dumbest thing Maynard could have done in that position. I
think as well, it's not like it's a player that hasn't had the controversy before. It's always Maynard. Every time something like this happens, you look at Collingwood, Maynard's done it. Maynard or Murphy. Murphy's the one getting punched. Maynard's the one that's punching people.
Yes.
It's just his nature. We've heard about competitive beast and how he has it on his shirt and everything like that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But we're going into the part of the game where you have to have a duty of care for your opposition.
Yeah.
You don't just walk out on the field and punch people.
Yeah.
And you don't just blatantly do things. Yes, he obviously didn't mean to knock the player out, but that's the result.
I don't think anyone in this league is willingly intending to knock someone out. No one in this league. We have a great game. We have great players. We have great personalities. And a lot of what we see, even the on-field feuds that we might have and things are personal and things like that, it tends to stay on the field. It never boils and crosses a line, especially in this modern era. I don't want to hear he didn't mean to knock him out. That's the case for everyone.
Yeah.
That's not an excuse.
It's not the 1980s. People aren't sniping other players. I mean,
correct.
Maybe, but people aren't really going and sniping at other players anymore.
They're not. So the question becomes, is this reckless? Was this careless? He definitely was.
Yeah.
What started off as a footy act very quickly became something careless. Didn't do all that he could. Knowing that he is about to hit someone who is open, having just kicked the ball in Brayshaw, completely prioritized himself over the other player. The other player was in a vulnerable position and took the full brunt, and he had to be stretched off. That is severe impact.
What did it for me as well was the Collingwood chance as he was being stretched off, as Brayshaw was lying on the ground. I don't hate fan bases. This is not the type of person that I am, but it kind of shows what it's like. Hey, your player's gone and done that. Yeah, let's rub it in your face. We're going to support our player. It's like, mate, the guy could potentially be out for 3 or 4 weeks. We've seen Brad Shepherd now coming out in the media and saying, hey, he can't even hold a job anymore. He can't sit down and be in front of a computer. Like, if that happens to Brayshaw and the fans are there, do they even care?
That was not great. I got to admit that it wasn't a classy act by the Collingwood cheer squad. I understand that you guys want to stand in solidarity with your player, and there was some remonstration on the field from the Melbourne players coming in and getting into Maynard's face and things like that, and you're trying to back your player in, but in a situation where you got someone who's been knocked out and has to be stretchered off, I think the classy thing would have been was to just simply applaud him as he was coming off. No need to swear any sort of allegiances in that sort of situation. Someone's health was in big danger.
Yeah,
to be in that sort of situation, and we're all just simply going tribalism and just chanting Collingwood. Like, I get it, you're a Collingwood supporter, but like at the end of the day, we got to remember that there's more important things in life than just football, and someone's life was for a moment in danger. So we lost a bit of humanity in that moment there, but hopefully we can see a different side to the game. As we saw, there was definitely what started off as really excited. They thought they got the game sewn, but Melbourne, to their credit, continued to fight on, and I think Collingwood were really sweating bullets by the end of the game.
Yeah, especially kind of that after half time, because I know Collingwood had that lead going into half time. And then slowly, that third quarter came along.
Yeah.
Melbourne started kicking more goals, and the pressure was really there. I know I posted online, was like, hey, Melbourne are actually in the fight, because it looked like they weren't. It looked like Brayshaw had happened, the immense pressure from Collingwood. Like I say, if Melbourne could kick straight, they would have won pretty easily this game.
They had a few out on the falls as well. And
just silly decisions like guys not taking the set shot, going for the sneaky kicks, and even towards the end when it was like a goal and a half, I think Fritsch kicked some little bouncer. Yeah. Like, mate, just kick it properly. Like, the game's on the line. If that goes out and you've had the game that you've had, to choose to do that kick instead of actually kicking the goal properly, it's a rough one.
I mean, they kept Collingwood goalless. They couldn't get the ball outside of halfway.
Yep.
They only kicked the 2 behinds in that last quarter, Collingwood, and they tend to be one of the best teams at running games out.
Bobby Hill, Elliott, and then Ginnivan comes on as well. Mate, have you seen a better, quicker forward line that actually tackles? Melbourne did fantastic.
They did fantastic, but you also got to remember that Collingwood started to play the smart game in terms of they knew, hey, time is now on our side. Let's just simply go with the high percentage stuff in terms of let's go wide, let's stick close to the boundary line, let's keep wasting the clock away. Once they saw that if they were really struggling to get through, they just went into self-preservation mode. They didn't go fast. They were very controlling of the football. And that I thought was very smart, given that they were really under the pump and Melbourne were throwing absolutely everything they could at them. So that, obviously, when you've got a great team like Melbourne, they're going to continue to keep fighting hard and take it to the end. Yeah, and we're playing the minutes, speaking as Craig McRae would say.
The last 5 minute comes along and you've got 3 goals before you lose. Like, teams will slow down the ball.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, but Collingwood definitely they managed to hold on. They did well. We keep talking though about Melbourne having bad kicking, and that's exactly the case. Melbourne were terrible, right? They did themselves no favour in front of the big sticks. But I think we also can't take away, though, how great some defensive efforts were for Collingwood.
I saw a lot of good defensive efforts, I think, in the first half. But in that second half, Mason Cox was running into 3 people. I saw one at one point, I think Nathan Murphy or Darcy Moore was going for the mark. And then Cox just runs into him. Like, you can see, I'm like, hey, give me the ball. I'm standing here. I'm waiting. And the player comes and charged me. Like, I think there was a lot more panic because they knew the pressure was on. And we saw that by the score differential.
Right.
But, yeah, first half was fantastic for them.
Like, I thought Darcy Moore had some great moments as well, intercepting things. Isaac Quaynor was close to best on ground. He was so incredible. I don't think he lost a single one-on-one all night. He was influential, took quite a few intercept marks. And right when Melbourne were in it and they were charging home really hard, and he went back with the fly and took a beautiful intercept mark with Bailey Fritsch flying in from behind him. You know, that was the courage, the poise. They did sensational, and that was without Nick Dacos.
Yeah.
Josh Dacos was low. Josh Dacos was almost terrible in that game. You know,
It really felt like the typical Collingwood with Darcy Moore, with Quaynor taking a few intercepts. They'd go 2-to-1s in that back line versus the Melbourne players. They'd shut down the kicks to the forward 50, but they wouldn't be able to shut down the players running through the forward 50 and those kind of chest high marks there. That was really the difference. I know Neil Bullen and a few other guys went for marks and they showed them on the on the TV, and they were fantastic. They dropped them obviously, but they were 2-on-1s. Collingwood had the advantage versus the running through the middle, which they just couldn't stop. We've talked about off field about how Darcy Moore's got found out a lot, and I think slowly that game was actually showing that as well. Billy Frampton wasn't playing, which really hurt them. I think they need a second tall who can mark, who can key defend. Nathan Murphy can do some, but I think they really need kind of that other tall player there.
Well, they were able to get away with it last night because Melbourne's forward line is ass, right?
Well, I mean, like, if they could, we go back to them not being able to kick straight. Normally, they'd win that game.
Well, but they couldn't kick straight because they're ass.
All right.
Like, it is what it is. I'm sorry, Melbourne, but like coming from an Essendon supporter, and our forward line is worse than ass. But like seriously, like, how do you have that many opportunities? There weren't anyone taking marks. Bailey Fritsch was clearly off the mark. They were missing Melksham. I thought if Melksham was available, Melksham would have 100% stayed in that side. He provides a lot more than what Bailey Fritsch provided. I thought McDonald was really bad. I thought Darcy Moore absolutely gave him a bath in that game. So they really didn't have much. I thought Cozzy Pickett for quite a large portion of the game was their only likely goal kicker, the only one who seemed likely, and he's a small. So, and I thought in the first half, Cozzy Pickett could not do any more to try and keep his side in it. In the second half, we saw the emergence of Petrarca and Gawn start to lift and really take over the game. So, look, it was a great, fascinating contest. It went down to the wire, and Collingwood managed to hold on. I personally tipped Melbourne to win the game by 7 points, so got the margin right. Wrong team for me, though.
Yeah.
What was your tip before the game?
I think Collingwood was going to win. I thought Melbourne could have, but I feel like Melbourne's the team that isn't as dynamic as what it used to be. When they play their game, they do really well, and they get taken by the Oliver Petrarcas, things like that. We saw how good he was in the second half, how good Gawn was in those players. But I think Collingwood's the more dynamic team. They should have just lost because Melbourne can't kick straight.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a wonderful live stream leading up to the game. We spoke all things finals football this week. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, a bit of a spur of the moment thing, but thanks for the people that jumped on. Really appreciate it. It's you, the fans, that have carried us throughout the year. Yes, it might only be a few people, but we know who you are. We know you by name. We know what team you go for. Thanks for joining us in this journey this year.
We know you by address as well, so be careful. Make sure you are very good. Jono. Make sure you're very nice to us and subscribe and share.
And
yes,
fan cams on Sunday after all the games. You can tell us how much you wanted Carlton to win when they lose this week,
and you can tell us just how wrong we were.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Catch you guys.